It's so important for us to continue to pay attention to how our physiology feels alongside specific movement. And the reason I say that is I have had seasons personally, and I've seen this with clients, where you're already burned out to the max. You're already stressed to the max. You are already doing all the things and managing all the things. And in that kind of season, if you're hitting a hard workout and you're not feeling energized from it, or if you're not getting the fuel you need from it, like essentially the endorphin rush from it, then that's probably not the right activity for you in that season, no matter what you might be managing. And so it's so important to make sure that we're being mindful. Balancing hormones naturally. This may have been something you've been looking at recently, or you've been hearing about often inside of the wellness space. And maybe you are like me and you are inundated with all of the information related to hormone health and how to essentially really work on our wellness as women. And I know, being in the women's health space, and I know with many of the clients that I work with and many of the women that I speak with, this idea of hormone health and hormone health knowledge and hormone health education and balancing our hormones and optimizing our hormones and healing our hormones. And there's a lot of discussion about hormone health right now. And I want to be a voice inside of this space that encourages you to make sure that you're pausing inside of the research related to hormone health marketed programs or hormone health education, and really making sure that you're being educated in a place that feels knowledgeable and targeted and really understands the science done on women. Hormone health is a very complex topic. It's also something that's highly bio-individual to each and every one of us. And so when we talk about hormone health and we talk about getting educated about what works for our unique bodies, it's just important to discern through the marketing and really think through, what are the things that I know are going to serve my longevity health? What are the things that I know are going to actually speak to my bio-individual needs? And how can I make sure that I'm asking the right questions and getting connected to knowledgeable resources and coaches and practitioners that really truly understand female physiology, and that ultimately really can point you in the direction of making sure that you're doing things and practicing habits and leaning into regimens that are truly going to serve your longevity above all else. So today I want to talk a little bit about balancing hormones naturally. And I'm sure you've probably seen information like this shared all over the internet. I'm sure that you've had conversations with friends. I'm sure that you've probably read blogs or articles or information about how do you really balance your hormones. And there's a lot of great information out there. There's also some misinformation out there. And so again, want to be a coach and a voice in this space that continues to point you in the direction of knowledgeable information, educated resources, and places that are going to give you the tips, tricks, and tools you need to really maximize your health and your energy over time. So let's talk about some natural ways to balance hormones. The first is blood sugar balance. And I've talked about this like a broken record on my podcast. I talk about this probably the most because this is actually something that I need to personally work on more than anything. And I know in busy lives that we lead as women, when we're all over the place, managing all the things, balancing blood sugar, eating consistently, getting adequate protein, all of those things are an easy piece to the wellness puzzle to put on the back burner or to not necessarily prioritize in the way that we may really need to. And this truly is one of the most important pieces to helping our hormones feel supported and to really support our female physiology well. So we need to be eating regular meals. We need to be practicing protein forward meals and fiber forward meals as often as possible. And we also need to make sure that we're getting a good mix of all of the macronutrients, right? So protein, fiber, healthy fats, and carbohydrates. All of it matters. And I've talked about this time and time again. I really truly believe we cannot be reminded enough of how important it is to make sure that we're fueling our bodies consistently. When we don't actually balance our blood sugar by fueling consistently and getting adequate fuel through protein and fiber and all the things, it can negatively impact our hormones. Things like estrogen and progesterone can be affected when our insulin is all over the place. And insulin, which is essentially blood sugar or blood glucose, is a huge driver to our energy, our mood, and so much more. So we have to be paying attention to this piece of the puzzle when we want to get into this concept of optimizing our hormone health. So adequate fueling, adequate nutrition, making sure that you're fueling consistently throughout the day. Those are huge. Making sure that we prioritize blood sugar is one of the biggest things that we can do for optimizing and supporting our hormone health and essentially helping our hormone health feel supported in a more natural way. Second is managing stress. And I know I've talked about this a lot, and this is something that we all have to work on as women. And this is one of the things that I don't think we speak about enough, is how often we are plugged in. And I'm learning this more as I work from home, and the more I have more hours in the day, as my kids are all in full-time school now, I am learning how much more time I have to potentially be plugged in. And on the days when I'm really plugged in on my computer, online, on social, doing my podcast, doing videos, setting up things for my coaching program, whatever it is, when I am plugged in on days, hour after hour after hour, and not doing a great job of setting boundaries or taking breaks or getting up for walks or even fueling consistently, like I just talked about in the last point, I can absolutely feel how it ends up driving my stress up. Even if I don't feel overly stressed or anxious, I can feel in my body, like in my nervous system, that I have been absorbing and consuming so much information outside of me and have been plugged in, sitting at a blue screen for hours and hours, that it plays a role in overall stress and essentially increases cortisol. It increases this extra specific piece to how we feel. And I want to make sure that we're speaking about this, because stress management is one of the best things we can do for optimizing our hormone health and supporting our hormone health naturally, by deep breathing, going for daily walks, meditating, yoga, anything mobility wise, Pilates, getting quality sleep, like all of those things matter. And so we have to be speaking about this when we're talking about this idea of balancing hormones naturally, because it does matter. And it's a huge piece to the overall puzzle. The third is supporting our gut health. And this one can be tricky. I know for me right now in my own hormone health journey, I'm trying to figure out not only my personal hormonal imbalances that I'm experiencing, but also how it's affecting things like my gut health. When your hormones are all over the place and fluctuating, specifically in midlife health, it can really start to wreak havoc on your overall gut bacteria and your gut microbiome, but it also can wreak havoc on just all kinds of symptoms that you feel. So supporting your gut health with things like fermented foods, whether that's sauerkraut or kimchi or yogurt or kefir, all of those things are high quality probiotics and can diversify the gut microbiome and the bacteria in the gut. And those things can be incredibly beneficial for natural support. Things like increasing fiber through fruits and veggies and seeds and things like that. Those are all huge for overall hormone detoxification. And again, giving your gut a variety of nutrients to really make sure you're supporting a really gut healthy environment. And then staying hydrated. I mean, hydration overall is massive. Getting quality electrolytes, getting quality hydration through water, adding in little sea salt, stuff like that. All of that is huge for supporting digestion and elimination, inflammation, and so many other things. So hydration is massive for also implementing great support for the gut. And the reason quality gut health matters is because that is a huge part of the overall detoxification process inside of our body. The gut, the liver, all of that needs major support inside of midlife health and really all areas and seasons of our health, because when we're not eliminating, when we're not detoxifying appropriately, there are so many other things that are recirculating inside of our body and potentially causing inflammation, all kinds of symptoms, imbalances, deficiencies, and more. So we have to be making sure that we're supporting our detoxification systems and really giving our gut health a quality environment to make sure we're maximizing absorption from the nutrients we're getting from foods or supplementation, and then essentially also supporting ourselves by eliminating what we don't need. The last thing, and this is kind of a bonus tip, is movement. And movement is a huge piece of the puzzle, but the thing is, strategic movement matters for us as women. So that doesn't mean going all out all the time. It means learning more about your physiology, your hormones, how they ebb and flow, and what kind of movement serves you during different phases of your cycle very specifically. I actually did an amazing podcast recently with a woman who talks a lot about emotional mastery and really this concept of aligning how you feel when it comes to emotion with your movement. So if you are feeling low emotions, things like depression, things like sadness, really aligning your movement in a way that kind of matches that energy and matches that emotion is essentially nurturing your physiology very intentionally and very well. So you want to get into things like yoga or meditation, Pilates, things like that. If you are in this space of maybe dealing with anxiety and anger and things along those lines, maybe more intense movement is helpful as far as moving those emotions through your body and helping you kind of manage stress. Now, here's the thing. It's so important for us to continue to pay attention to how our physiology feels alongside specific movement. And the reason I say that is I have had seasons personally, and I've seen this with clients, where you're already burned out to the max. You're already stressed to the max. You are already doing all the things and managing all the things. And in that kind of season, if you're hitting a hard workout and you're not feeling energized from it, or if you're not getting the fuel you need from it, like essentially the endorphin rush from it, then that's probably not the right activity for you in that season, no matter what you might be managing. And so it's so important to make sure that we're being mindful. So yes, depending on the emotion we may be feeling, aligning activity to release it can be so powerful and so profound for our health, but we also have to be mindful and be paying attention. And when we're not paying attention and we're not being diligent about what our body needs, that's when we can get into a place of significant hormonal imbalance and elevated cortisol, or even bottomed out cortisol, and so many more things. So I want to encourage you to know that these 3 tips can be really great ways to think about balancing your hormones naturally. But I also want to encourage you to know that in midlife health, all of us go through some level of hormonal fluctuation. All of us become depleted and deficient in some way, and essentially imbalanced in some way. And so I'm a huge believer in pointing women in the direction of targeted, effective, knowledgeable testing, where you can go deep dive root cause on your unique physiology, your bio-individual health, and understand what are your deficiencies, what are your imbalances, and how can you very strategically help address those with lifestyle, like we've talked about today, but also with things like very strategic supplementation that's high quality and targeted towards your needs, and also things like nutritional changes and changing up maybe what you're fueling with and why based on your specific deficiencies. And so I'm always the one that's going to continue to speak about this bigger picture idea of how do we work on ourselves in a lifestyle capacity? How do we do things like balancing our hormones naturally through our lifestyle choices? But also, how do we give ourselves the permission to dive deeper and go deeper dive root cause testing in the event of wanting to really understand more about our bio-individual health journey? And that's really the truth for all of us. We have some level of hormonal fluctuation we will experience. So it's so imperative to make sure that you're in touch with and in community with knowledgeable practitioners, coaches, and women who understand the science on women and can point you in the direction of really making sure you're nurturing your wellness well. As a recap, the 3 tips I talked about today for balancing hormones naturally are: 1, making sure that you're balancing blood sugar or prioritizing blood sugar balance, and, protein forward, consistent fueling, and making sure that you're really doing what you can to not get into those high highs and low lows related to blood sugar spikes and insulin spikes. 2nd is managing stress and making sure that you're really evaluating that. And then 3rd is supporting your gut health, making sure that you're providing a really diverse environment for your gut, and making sure that you're also really supporting things like inflammation and detoxification pathways and so much more. The 4th tip was movement, and really being strategic and thinking about how can movement help you. And all of these things can be really powerful for helping you feel optimized in your energy and just thriving throughout this midlife health season. As always, I'm an open book, always happy to chat more about the work I do as a coach and how we can work together. Feel free to go to my website at any point in time, erinshrier.com, to set up a free coaching call. Would love to chat your goals and hear more about your story when it comes to inside out health and wellness. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I know balancing time and energy can be a challenge, and I'm so proud of you for listening in and investing in your wellness journey. I feel incredibly grateful to connect with you and for the opportunity to share more knowledge, stories, and encouragement related to all things wellness. I would love to hear how this podcast has served you. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review on either iTunes or Spotify. Your support truly means the world to me and helps me reach more women just like you and me who are looking to transform their health from the inside out. Plus, when you share this episode with a friend, we invite more women in to learn alongside us. What a gift. Remember, knowledge is power, and the more we know, the better we can do. For ourselves, for our families, and our future. Well done on taking the step towards a healthier, happier you. Until next week, stay empowered and stay well.